Oh, are we on? All right, we are live. So I am Eric today because Eric is picking up his daughter from camp. So hello and welcome to Apropos, a series where Clojure programmers talk about Clojure and then we jump into a REPL and work on a problem together with you. Feel free to join in the YouTube chat box next to the screen. Today on our program, we have Mike.
Hello.
Ray.
Hello.
And me, Mia, also Eric today.
Mia/Eric.
Yes. So let's begin.
That was an excellent Eric.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good.
You got the hello down.
I need the goatee.
The goatee.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're the only one without a beard, Mia. That's not good. To get a fake one, just for the cast.
I have a husband.
Does that count?
Congrats,
yeah. His head in. So we've been away for like 40 days ish, and now it's the day of Ascension.
Yeah.
Which is a religious holiday in Belgium, which is why I know about it.
Do you have the day off?
Yes. And tomorrow as well, if you want to.
Nice.
Oh, that sounds nice.
They normally do like if you have they do the holidays. Some countries like the UK, they do the holidays on a Monday or a Friday, so it's always like at the edge of a weekend. But Belgium always do it on the kind of day it falls, so it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. So if it's a Tuesday, everyone takes a long weekend up until Tuesday, and if it's a Thursday, everyone takes a long weekend until the Monday.
I think July 4th is the only thing we do that for in the States.
And then do people take bridging days if it's like a Thursday or a Tuesday?
Witching days?
Bridging.
Bridging days, okay. It was like that's a...
it's a different thing,
generally.
Yeah. I know they used to do witching days back in the early July the 4th days,
Yeah, generally you'll like it's on a Thursday, so I'm taking Friday off, and I assume everyone else is as well.
Yeah. Cool. So you're now a married lady, and does marriage like make you appreciate Clojure more?
No,
course, yeah.
but watching my husband write Java does.
All right. Okay.
Oh, man.
You're like
it's been...
a pair of parentheses now. You finally closed the expression.
It was really, really nice. We had a very nice wedding. No one fought with each other. Mm-hmm. Everything just worked. My dad danced, which is weird. He wore long pants instead of cargo shorts. Like anything that I was afraid of, it was just none of it happened. It was very nice. Okay. It was very good. And now it's over. And I came back to work, and they completely changed everything in the 3 weeks I was gone. So. That's
all your
fun.
code is been deleted from the repo, and
yeah, no, before I left, I had been rehabbing this piece of abandonware from remember the guy who wrote the twice removed now most recent Why I'm Leaving Clojure blog.
Oh yeah.
So he had this thing called Hydrox, which automatically generates documents from test code.
Oh, yeah.
And we wanted to use that here, but it is not at all compatible with any recent libraries. So I spent like the 2 weeks before I left rehabbing it so it works. And now it works, and deps.eden is really, really powerful. It's actually really good for handling abandonware.
How does that help with that?
Because you can be really selective about which dependencies you're using and how you're using them. Mm-hmm. And also you can lock away problematic dependencies and aliases really easily. So like with this thing, we have a separate alias for generating docs, and it contains like the old, like some of the libraries. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah. It was really, really useful. It was nice to see, you've been using tool steps for everything, but it felt like this was a really strong use case for it.
Yeah.
So
you could do those extra dependencies and extra paths and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All the affordances.
Because, for instance, this thing, like, there was absolutely no way to run it without using an outdated version of core match, which we use the updated version of core match in our other libraries. So being able to lock that away in the extra depths alias made a big difference in the usability.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I don't often use that. Yeah, so it's like you can override depths or extra depths and all types of like per alias things that you can do.
Yeah, it's really, really good.
The time that I use it is for things like Figwheel, for example, because you don't necessarily want Figwheel to be in your main dependencies, but you can put it in your Figwheel alias.
That extra depths you put in there, yeah.
The extra depths for Figwheel and for the Rebel read line or whatever, yeah.
And the tools depth docs are great. Yeah, we've got our REPL in a separate in an alias, and all of our REPLware lives in that alias, so then it's not running with the production code.
Yeah. Nice, yeah. Yeah, I think I've got to say we've adopted it wholeheartedly as well, and it's pretty good. And especially when you've got like interdependencies you can use the Git shards to do that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we use Git shards for everything. We're a SHA-based shop here, which the only time it gets to be a problem is when people use their branch SHAs and then delete the branch and forget to update.
I have done that.
Or if you squash and merge the branch that you're referring to. Yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
There's no good solution to that. It's just the SHA's gone.
No. Yeah, I will say having a SHA-based workflow makes things a lot easier, but it also has required a lot of extra kind of scaffolding around how we do things. Like, we have a tool that lists all the SHAs of the most recent stuff that we're using, so that way you can see if you're like, oh,
like that
I got
ancient stuff.
Like I got this result running these SHAs with this code, and then so someone can exactly reproduce your error, because usually by the time you get to someone else's bug, there's been so many new changes that you don't get exactly the same bug.
Right.
But we
That's
had to
really a
build
nice
that.
idea, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to write that one down. Yeah, because it's a really good idea.
Yeah, when you're using SHA-based workflows, it's really important to be able to keep track of which SHAs do which thing.
Yeah, but I like the kind of the fact that you're saying you've got a bit like a kind of like a built-in lock on the build. Because a lot of the tools have, like with things like Maven and NPM, they have to produce a separate thing that has a lock.
Yep.
But if you use Git shards for everything, I guess you can't use it for everything though, because you probably have external dependencies that are you're not depending on the Git shards. But for your internal stuff, you can at least.
And then what we do is, for the most part, we have wrappers around the external dependencies that we then use the SHAs of for that. So we do have.
You go the extra mile for the SHA. Yeah.
Well, we're using Duct and Component.
Okay.
So how do you do that? How do you have like a
let's
CLJS time or something like that, or something that's.
Let's take a logger.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're using Timber is the external dependency.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But then so we wrap that in a Duct component that is our Duct logger. So that's my logger now.
Okay.
So then any changes that we make to my logger, we're then using my logger in all of our code. So we're not relying on the Timber logger directly.
Okay.
We're relying on my logger, which wraps the Timber logger and which has things that are useful for us that aren't necessarily in the Timber logger. So it also makes it so we don't have to fork as much.
Okay. But if you just wanted to use a dependency straight,
we do. We have some of those.
Yeah. You don't do a wrapper then? You just take it from the Maven repo? Or...
Yeah, it depends on how many things we're using it for. So we do have a ton of repos.
Right.
So, if you're using the same thing for 5 things, then at that point we might do a wrapper instead of relying on it directly.
So I wonder, is there still, I wouldn't call it a bug, but there's that lack of ability of Deps to deal with something that is both SHA-based and just a normal Maven. Like if you looked at your dependency tree and you end up like with a SHA of something and then something else that's a versioned thing, a Maven version. I don't know what get Deps or what it does, what Deps Eden does at that point. I remember it would just like you would just get one of the two, or do you get both?
It picks one, and I forget which one has the priority. Generally, the way we've been dealing with that is using an alias.
Doesn't it do it via the Maven rules?
Probably. I don't remember.
It has its own resolution rules. And I remember the problem was is you can't really easily compare a SHA to a Maven version number, right? There's like different versioning schemes. So it's like that causes the problem where you don't even know how to compare the two.
Right.
Okay, so you're probably experiencing that at times where you like, if you have a lot of repos and lots of SHAs and lots of dependencies, I guess.
Yeah,
you can encounter that.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that we are using the wrappers, is trying to keep our transitive dependencies to a minimum by having everyone rely on the same thing.
Yeah, that seems like a nice, interesting approach where you're like every little thing has to come through at least a stub repo that has a SHA, and then it depends on the thing. Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier to keep track of transitive dependencies. The only time I've experienced dependency hell since I got here was in rehabbing that abandonware repo, and that was all Maven.
Cool. Yeah.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Don't depend directly on Maven dependencies. Always go through something that's a SHA-based thing. Then you have, wow, it seems like extra work to get that in direction, but it may pay off, right?
Yeah, we found it, we have a lot of, because we have so many repos, like there's a lot of, I think, idiosyncrasies in our tooling, but they really work. It's been, this whole job has been like, oh, I would never have thought of that, but it's good.
Well, how do you deal with the sort of version bumping of the downstream libraries or the upstream libraries, however you prefer to call them? Yeah.
That's a real pain. So in that case, you have to just go through and make 5 PRs for every one change that you make in the upstream library. But, we have a rule where you try not to make backwards incompatible changes. So it's not urgent to bump the downstream libraries, and you do it as you need.
Right, yeah. And you have a little tool that lets you know that one of them's out of date or something, did you say?
Actually, we don't have that yet. What we do have is a tool that will pull up the most recent changes for everything into your local with just one command.
Ah, right, okay. Because I think the last bit, I've thought about this myself as well, having like going to a repo and finding, like you've got like, you're depending on SHA at, from November or something, but there are SHAs in February and March. It would be quite nice to have a list of those, more recent SHAs.
It would be. That's some tooling that we could. I know that a couple of my coworkers are watching the show, so
get on it. Well, we could use that as well. So yeah, it'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be okay, nice to have.
Also makes me think of like if everything's based on SHAs, then maybe it makes it easier to do get bisects if something regresses. You can imagine tooling built around that to help you do this multi-way get bisect or whatever. I don't know.
Ooh.
And like, it's like which library broke it, whatever, where did the regression occur?
Yeah.
You can still do that manually. You just kind of like make it depend. You make your stuff depend on a local root, and then you do a get bisect in that little local root repo until you find whatever caused the regression.
I've never had to use get bisect yet. Look at that.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's one of my favorite tools because if you're like working on software and all of a sudden something breaks, right? And you're like, oh crap, what, you know that something's broken, but it used to work previously, which happens quite frequently, right? Then you're like, okay, who did it? What broke it? And if you have like a single repo and that's pretty straightforward thing, Git bisect's great for that, because you can then, and logarithmic time or whatever, and a logarithmic number of steps, you can figure out which commit broke whatever it was.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, like this happens. Like for example, just take the Clojure script compiler as an example. Any project, if you pick on that one, if Clojure script compiler has some regression in it, you're like, what? this used to work, and it's not working now. Like, what commit broke it? And that's oftentimes like if the bug is not obvious, you're like, well, what could have been. Sometimes when you see a bug, you're like, yeah, I know what's causing that. It's got to be wrong here. But if you have no clue, you're like, what? Throw me a bone. Then Git bisect will just tell you it was this particular commit. And that's all you need to like figure it out. Then you're like, yeah, that commit did it.
I've been doing this manually using the Git UI, so this seems much better.
Oh yeah. Yep. It automates it. And especially this. Okay, this is one reason why I don't like whip commits to be in. Like people will like not squash their commits when they put things in. Mm-hmm. You have whip commits, then that kind of thwarts your ability to do Git bisects.
Because it was wrong in the first place, because it's a whip. So it's not
you
work
have
anyway.
all this trash that's been committed in the tree that sometimes doesn't even run. So like you get into one of these whip commits and you're like trying to reproduce the problem, and you can't even start your server or whatever it is.
Yeah,
that's an argument against whip commits.
Is there an argument against squash commits?
Yeah, if you're using Git SHAs and you're depending on a library,
that's true.
And you depend on that last one, and then you squash it, then your SHA is gone. So I don't know a solution to that one. It's like, you don't want whip commits in your main top level thing, but you need them in the bottom on the leaves.
You want to be able to ad hoc squash things, but then the bisect can't do that.
Yeah, I don't know a good answer to that one. Like if you're working on a library and you have a bunch of whip commits, I guess when you ultimately are ready to like have something else depend on it, then you should squash it at that point. But squashing is destructive, right? It removes your SHA.
Yeah, we have squashing for that reason, because we're depending on.
Well, and because everyone uses GitHub as a kind of backup for their local machines, so of course you do whips anyway. Yeah. Because Git is meant to be, I can push it to your machine, but we don't do that, do we? We end up just, shit, end of the day, I better just save what I'm doing. I'll just make a whip commit, So
this is actually really interesting, because this means that when we're relying on Git SHAs as versions, we're sort of changing what GitHub means for us there, right? GitHub is no longer a cloud backup of our local machine. GitHub is now a source of truth. So
a dependency management tool.
Yeah. So it changes, you want to be more careful with whip commits. It changes the way you use GitHub.
Yeah, you know how GitHub has that new feature that's in beta now that basically they're getting into the repo business. Like they can be like a Maven repo if you want them to be, or all the different repo systems that are out there, the popular ones. That's their most latest thing, right? But we don't care, because we can just use Git SHAs, we can already treat GitHub as a repo. We've been doing that for a couple years now.
They saw the Clojurists using that, and they were like, oh, it's a business. No, that's a really good point, right? Like I'm thinking about now, it has changed the way we use GitHub here.
I think it's subtle, but my view is that I've said this when this whole Git SHA thing came out, and it's witnessed from your perspective and our perspective that the workflow has completely changed. It's had a much bigger impact on our workflow than Boot did, for example, or Lanigan even to that extent. We feel like we can control it a lot more.
Yeah, at first I was like, oh, Lanigan's gone. Like all of these things are like, it's so much harder for me to just, write a command. And then I realized it's actually a lot easier.
I mean, the only thing, to be honest, the only thing that we do that is like that we miss. I know lots of people have things that they miss from Lanigan when, okay, I get it, but in our situation, the only thing we really miss is this Uberjar thing, and there is a Depstar thing that does it for you. So it's not as refined as the line Uberjar tool, but it's getting there, and that's the only one thing that I think we use that we miss from the line world. Yeah, I don't know about you guys.
We don't have anything in production yet. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kinds of things we are going to be missing or thinking about, or the tooling that we don't know we need right now that we're going to need once we get a production deploy pipeline going.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. The other thing I was going to talk about, actually, and we haven't really made a good agenda for this show. We're trying to get better, but Eric is the sort of organizer of this thing with the gist and stuff like that. So I'm throwing him under the bus here today. Since he's not here.
Thanks for nothing, Eric.
And Eric, come on, man. Hopefully you won't watch this later.
Eric, we're falling apart without you, bud.
I know, come on, dude. But I wanted to the one bit of like, since we're on the tooling business, we had a bit of an issue with ClojureScript. We had to use Webpack with ClojureScript, and I think Eric was going to talk about that at one point, and that turned out to be quite an interesting little journey. I don't know if you've ever done the ClojureScript with Webpack. Yeah, or are you mostly just Clojure?
No, I'm just in Clojure.
Yeah,
Mike,
okay.
you're a ClojureScript guy, right?
So I've only recently used this Webpack stuff. I've used it once, and it worked for me. So
yeah.
Tell us about your journey, Ray.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of in the end it did kind of mostly work. I think there turned out to be some small glitches, but a lot of it is about how you combine the Webpack tooling and the NPM tooling together, and where you put the dependencies in the JSON, the package.json file, to make sure that the tools like Yarn or whatever that the ClojureScript guide recommends. It turns out it doesn't really matter whether you use Yarn or NPM, by the way. It just happens to just have to have a package.json, and you have to be able to run Webpack against something.
So have we explained what we're even talking about, or we just?
Oh no, maybe we haven't.
So if you back up a little bit,
thinking about the Uberjar. I followed on from the Uberjar thing, but yeah.
No, so the way I would describe it to keep it simple is, let's say you want to depend on something that's in NPM, but you don't want to actually consume it directly from NPM. And the example, the one recent example I used it for was I was doing something with Plonk, and Plonk doesn't support NPM, right? It's just a ClojureScript REPL. But I wanted to use a library that was in NPM. So I'm like, how the hell do I use that library? So I used, basically the idea is you point Webpack instead at that NPM dependency, and it kind of produces a bunch of JavaScript, or a JavaScript file for you from that NPM stuff. And then you can treat that JavaScript as a foreign dependency in ClojureScript, which is it's like the oldest way to consume code in ClojureScript.
It's like Eric says.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like Eric says, you just concatenate all the files.
Yeah, it's basically like
throw them in a directory.
Yeah. And basically in ClojureScript, you can basically say, oh, when I refer to this synthetic namespace that I made up, you load that file. That's what the compiler loads for you, is this concatenated file. So that's really the big picture. Is you say, I want to consume something from NPM, but I don't want to actually I don't want to have like the ClojureScript compiler consume it directly from NPM. So instead, you have this Webpack tool slurp it out of there for you and put it into a concatenated file, and then you depend on that file instead.
Which makes it a bit. That's why I kind of like think of it as a little bit like an Uberjar kind of. It's a different process, like you say, but in the end, you're able to ship this thing, build this thing, and then ship it, and it doesn't have to be built again. Whereas normally with NPM, you would You would just ship your code plus the dependencies in a package JSON, and then it would get built on demand.
Oh yeah, that is weird.
Sometimes
Yeah, that notion that you would in production have your production server pull stuff from npm to start itself up if it hasn't done that yet, right?
Well, this used to cause a lot of problems because
Yeah.
npm has these weird. Well, I don't know if it's like weird, but it's certainly.
Okay. Yeah.
They have this. There is a concept in Maven of version ranges. But I think most people don't use it. It's kind of deprecated it's not deprecated, it's supported, but people don't like to see it in Maven files or whatever files, because it kind of like makes your build a little bit unstable, unreproducible.
I agree with that. I don't like version ranges. Yeah.
Yeah, and the same is true for snapshots as well. So if you have we used to have a rule that you couldn't put a snapshot as a dependency into production, for example. And then npm had a similar kind of thing where if you put something like carets or tildes, it's a bit,
right.
It has these set of rules with tildes and carets, and it basically means that give me something around about this version. Like you can put like caret 1.2 or something. It'll give me the 1.2x, and then you get into this horrible situation where, like you say, in production it's pulling from npm, but even if you've been careful with your dependencies, all the downstream people haven't been. So it can produce significantly different builds. And if you know anything about npm, it's I would say it's worse than Maven in terms of the number of dependencies it generates, because node modules tend to be smaller, so you tend to get more of them, so it makes it very difficult to have reproducible builds unless you basically go to this the npm people have this package lock JSON now,
right?
So you use that package lock JSON and say, okay, right, well, this package lock is the thing which represents the complete set of all dependencies for this build now, and build against that. And then you're kind of safe in a production environment. Because although things can change in npm, but I think that's unusual.
Locked it down. But it is weird. Like, let's say, like if you just have an old school Java-based program that you're going to deploy in production, you would make like an Uber jar, right? And you basically get all your bytecode together in one big mammoth thing, and you shove that out into production. And that's like. The notion that like your production server is actually pulling stuff from the internet while it's starting up is what's weird to me. And that seems to be like the normal. Is that normal with npm or JavaScript based node programs in production, where you fire them up and all of a sudden they start pulling stuff from npm as fast as they can, and then they start up? That's weird. I'm not used to that.
Yeah,
I guess I need to get used to it.
Well, I think things change now because what people tend to do, and again, this is kind of like the advent of, because you have more indirection than you have before with the advent of Docker. Because what then is they build the Docker image with the npm thing, and then they ship the Docker image, which is a kind of version of an Uber jar, really.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you can't have like a left pad screw you up, right? Because your stuff's already been pulled down. It's in that Docker image.
Yeah.
Because that's just scary. The idea that your stuff's pulling stuff from the internet in order to start up is.
Although Docker then also does this bullshit as well, where it has layers. So in theory, you could have a lower layer that has.
It gets pulled out from underneath you.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Everyone's always optimizing. Everyone's always, being clever.
I guess that'll happen to us one day. We'll put something in production that depends on a get SHA, and someone will remove that get SHA.
Oh yeah.
The same problem again.
Happen. Yeah. Tooling, eh?
Yeah. Dependencies suck. That's why I still think you should not take on any dependencies. You should write all the code. Don't ever depend on anything. Yeah.
Well, I think you've got something. There's something to be said for it. Yeah.
Enzo Cavallo in the comments says something about Shadow CLJS. What is that?
Oh, Shadow CLJS is a kind of it's a different way of running the CLJS compiler, I guess. So they have like quite good integration with npm, and with that whole Webpack ecosystem and npm ecosystem. So they can do builds as well. But actually, funnily enough, I saw this problem we had at work, and I thought, it wasn't working out for me with ClojureScript easily. So I did try Shadow CLJS, and I ended up speaking to the developer. But a lot of that stuff in terms of like producing Webpack-like builds turned out to be a bit unstable. So I think they do very well with NPM. I mean, I think their integration with Node is very good, but this Webpack aspect turns out not to be quite as perfect as I thought it was going to be. But in fairness to him, it was kind of like meant to be. It was a bit of an unstable alpha situation, so he wasn't advertising it as a finished product. The other thing, by the way, just for people, because I didn't know this, but he recommended it to me, there is a tool called NCC, which allows you to essentially package up any JavaScript sort of project in a very interesting way, and does all kinds of tree shaking and stuff like this. And it's a kind of like granddaddy over the top of Webpack. So in the end, it didn't need it. The ClojureScript stuff worked out. But actually, it turns out the thing that Mike talked about with the synthetic namespaces, that I don't think that was particularly well documented. So that turned out to be a bit of a pain to get right. But no, I've got friends who know this stuff, so
Oh yeah,
it's all right.
I'm always there to help you. Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah.
What does the compiler say? Core line 4023.
Yeah. So like the whole like the idea that a foreign lib in ClojureScript uses a synthetic namespace, and you didn't even know that, right? Right.
No. It seems like from the guide, it's all just kind of like A, B, A, B, B, C, C. It doesn't. It's not clear what the namespace actually is. Yeah.
Maybe someone should write a book about this stuff. I don't know. To explain it all.
Yeah.
The book market. I don't know. I'll just explain it to you. If you ever have questions, hit me up.
Yeah.
There is documentation, but yeah, it's pretty sucky, right? You have to read through all of it, and it's not clear. And
yeah. Well, I think it's like a lot of things, isn't it? As it sees more usage with this sort of stuff, the rough edges will become visible to the authors, and we can make PRs and stuff like that, so we can improve the situation.
Yeah.
So I think we've just got to get more, more people using this stuff, then it will improve. Right.
Do we want to do the REPL?
Yeah, we can.
Well, we were talking about doing a little demo, Mike, weren't we, of a tool of one of your friends, Mr. Jason.
So so Ray had suggested that we just use the replete version from macOS as our REPL this time. I guess every show we try a different REPL now these days.
Yeah.
So
Demo.
Have you heard about this project, Mia?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So if you use a Mac, you can now go to the Mac App Store, and there is a ClojureScript REPL that you can download.
What?
Yeah, isn't that cool? Like
I'm going to send it to all my friends.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah.
And it's in the App Store. You can just download it, and it's called Replete, and it'll be on your Mac. And that's
Replete for iOS was the first Clojure-related thing I ever downloaded.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So it's now been ported to Mac, basically.
Ooh,
And it's in
very exciting.
Yeah. And there's Android as well, isn't there?
Yes. Yep.
So could we use Replete to? Can we share a REPL with it?
No. It's basically a conventional REPL. So what Ray was thinking.
I'm working on that though.
Yeah, Ray's gonna fix it so that we can do more. But
so who's the audience for Replete?
I don't know. I mean, when I was first learning Clojure, I sometimes, when I was walking around, taking walks, I would think about something, right? I'm like, how does this work in Clojure, right? And it's cool to just stop, try something on your phone real quick, and then continue walking, right? I mean, that's kind of a thing to do, but that's what I always wanted. So that was kind of I want a REPL on my phone, right?
So that's what I used it on the phone for. But yeah, who's the audience for it? For the desktop, because at that point you have like a REPL in your terminal.
Yeah, so
but you don't have any setup with this Replete app, do you? If you just download Replete, you can just use Clojure straight away.
Oh.
So my thought of this whole Replete on Mac OS, is that it's like a very easy gateway drug to get you, into the ecosystem. If you're curious about the stuff, you can just go to the Mac App Store, click on the button, and you have it, and it works. It's very simplified, and it's so it's not really like a complete terminal. Like you can't require namespaces from the file system and stuff like that. But when you're first learning Clojure, you're not even doing that yet anyway. You're just like, how do you add two numbers together, or how do you map a function over a collection and stuff like that. So that's what I think of the audience for Replete Mac OS is just people who are brand new and learning stuff, and they're like, oh, let me go grab a rep. Like David Nolan.
Zero setup,
Yeah, David Nolan gives this story where he thought Clojure was easy to use because it was like one of the few things you could just go grab the jar and run it, right? So this is even easier, right? You just go to the Mac App Store and you click on the button and you have it.
I'm going to send this to all my friends.
And they can all get it. It's there.
And they can all get it, yeah.
Assuming you have Mac friends, yeah. So we don't have anything else. That's the next thing, I guess.
I have a Linux husband.
Oh, okay. Well, show him Replete, and then maybe he'll think about
it. Are the drivers working yet?
Show him what you can do. You can like download a REPL from the Mac App Store, and it's like running there.
No, he's. I don't want to poison him. He's doing Android development. I don't want him to know that Clojure exists and is good.
Well, you can use Clojure script on Android. That works. Well, I can share my screen to the little Replete REPL that I have running. We can
demo.
Well, there's not much to demo because it's just there and running. Let's see, share this. Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah, perfect.
I guess I should pin it, right? Let's see. Now it should be pinned, right? I want it to stay on that screen so it doesn't flip as we talk. Is the font big enough?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh. Yeah. So it's a REPL. There's nothing fancy about it other than the fact that you can get it from the Mac App Store and it just works. So which problem are we going to solve this time? We were doing a pig Latin thing. This like so long ago though, right? 40 days ago. We were also thinking about a poker hand analyzer.
Oh.
That one seemed like pretty complicated. Maybe we could do a little bit of the poker hand one. I mean, we only have like another 20 minutes or so or less. So we probably can't do a whole lot, but we can try to solve parts of some stuff.
Maybe we can just define what a poker hand. I don't know what the rules are for poker.
Okay. Is that like is that an American game or is it just like a?
I think it's a global game. I'm just not a card player. I'm not a gambler.
There's so many different kinds too, right?
So the idea.
I've heard of some different types of poker.
Yeah. So you have like 5 cards, and the main notion in this kind of a problem is to like analyze those 5 cards and determine which hand you have. So an example is so they have names that like there's a flush, right?
Okay.
Which I think means they're all of the same suit. All the cards are all like hearts or something like that.
Okay, they're not all continuous.
So there is like the idea of continuous, which would be called a straight. Like the numeric numbers like go contiguously.
Okay, and then if it's the straight in the same suit, it's a straight flush.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the challenge with these kind of problems.
I've heard it in cowboy films, so
Oh yeah, you got to know what the full. Yeah. That's where my knowledge comes from too. I don't play the game. I guess the main thing about poker too is like the ability to like
lose all your money.
It's to hide your emotions or just like keep a straight face. That's the main. I guess when people who really get into poker, that's what they're doing, is they're trying to like pretend like they have a great hand even though they don't.
And also, don't a lot of like professional mathematicians play poker because there's some kind of like algorithms?
I don't know. I mean, you have to. I guess you have to know when to like what cards to take out and what,
Like card counting and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
card counting. Are we building a card counter, or are we just building a?
So this is a Rosetta Stone problem, and the details of the problem are like basically you're given a hand of 5 cards and you have to analyze it. And let's see, what do they want you to do?
Can you post it?
Yeah.
For that hint through there.
Yep. Let's see.
All right.
I can put it in our group chat, I guess. Let's see. I wonder if I can put it in the YouTube. I'm not even on the YouTube. If either of you are, you can copy that into there.
Okay, here it
It's
is.
rosettacode.org wiki poker_hand_analyzer.
Ray, are you the YouTube guy today?
I'm not, but I can be. Hold on.
But the main idea is basically you have like 5 cards and you need to write a program that would tell you which one it is. I guess there's also the problem where you could have multiple things that it could evaluate to. Like you could have, I guess, I'm assuming you could have like a flush that also happens to be maybe I guess some of these are like a straight flush, right? That's an example where it's both a flush and a straight flush, right? But we probably won't solve all that. We can just at least try to start defining the problem. So they say that you're given a representation of your hand as a string, I think. So like they use an encoding, like 2D means 2 of diamonds. So they have like hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades are the letters H, D, C, and S. So you have like the numeric part followed by the suit. So in our REPL, that would represent, according to their definitions, that would be a card that is a 2 of diamonds.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. I don't like that representation, but that's what the problem definition is. Let's see. So each input card has 2 characters indicating the face and suit. Okay, so how do you deal with 10? Because there's a 10 card, right? Maybe the problem definition is incorrect. Like, how would you represent a 10 of hearts? That's not 2 characters.
Well, you can use the Unicode characters as well, by the way.
Yeah, you can, according to them. Let's see. I wonder if that works in Replete. Let's test it.
If you can't use emojis in Replete, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Come on.
So that worked, I guess. You can put like a little.
Oh.
Yeah, that's perfect, isn't it? Yeah.
That would mean ace of hearts.
Yeah.
And then, so in their example, I'm going to copy one in its entirety. A straight flush would look like this, I guess. I guess because ace is the high card, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the number. I think of ace as the number 1, but I guess in this game it's the high number.
I think, don't they say aces are high or something like that? You know, is that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Since we haven't actually pasted the link into the YouTube chat yet.
I've done it. Yeah, I have pasted it in.
Oh, what? I don't see it.
So we can at least work on parsing this thing, I guess. We probably won't get to the analyzing part because I need to leave for 10 minutes, and I think Mia does as well. So
yeah.
I don't think we can solve the whole thing in 10 minutes. We can make some progress on it.
Says the program should analyze a single hand, so that's 5 of these, right?
Yeah, and here's another example. Sorry, Mia, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just reading the problem.
Yeah,
And produce one of the following outputs.
Yeah.
And it's based on the Wikipedia's list of poker hands.
So I got stuck right away when they said each input card has 2 characters indicating face and suit. And I call BS on that because there's the 10 sitting there.
Yes.
So I think that's incorrect. That would make the problem simpler if that 10 was part of the game.
Maybe the idea is, oh no, because the input has got a 10 in it, yeah. Obviously, you can just shift it to 0 to 9, then you're all good.
Yeah.
Could we just replace 10 with X,
Okay.
like the Roman numeral 10?
Ooh.
Well, yeah. So yeah, that's a simple. That's fine with me because I didn't like that. So well, okay. So let's say we take this thing that we have. This, let's say that is the representation of a hand. It's just a big string like that. We want to then perhaps divide it into its cards.
Mm-hmm.
So how would we do that? Let's see. It's delimited with spaces. Would we use string split maybe?
Yeah, string split on a space, yeah.
Oh, Ray, I don't think it actually lets you paste links into chat. I think that you have to like do something stupid with the formatting.
God damn it. Okay. Well, sorry, guys and girls and all the people out there. Complain to Google. Your call is important to them.
Okay, so I'm going to define a hand that we can. Whoop. And I'm going to use me as idea of an X for 10.
Although if we're going to be using some kind of regex that searches for digits.
Do you want to go back to using 10?
I think we'll have to see.
Well, we've still got Jack, Queen, and King, so.
Yeah, but those are face cards, so they're worth more.
So it seems like we could first split the big string into little strings, and then maybe write a function that would take each card, if you will, and produce a better representation for us. I would kind of like.
Well, actually, if you just put the 10 back, can't you just like essentially then just like split it on the suit at the end? You know, so you split the big string and then you split the small strings on the suit.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the number part called?
A face.
The face.
Thank you. Okay, so the suit example might be, would we keep it as a string or maybe convert it into a keyword or something like that?
It would make sense to make a keyword out of a.
So you would not want this. You would want instead hearts or something like that. And then what'd you say, face?
Yeah, the face is the
Something like that. Would that be like a cool representation of a card if we could produce that?
Yeah, that would be a three of hearts, yeah.
And that's something we could probably do within the few minutes we have left. Let's see. So we want to take a card representation. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we know that we're dealing with 10s as being 10 instead of X. So it seems easy enough to like at least split off the suit off the end of it, right?
Yeah. It's N and suit, and we're assuming that they're coming together, aren't we?
How do you spell suit? S-U-I-T?
Yeah.
Okay. Can do that, right? That would be the last character in that string.
Yeah.
But then we want to then map those things to actual suit keywords. So we could even do that right here, right? I don't know if that's a bad style, but anyway. We could have it look it up in, look it up in a map where heart, I don't know how to type a heart, I'll have to copy one. And so on down the line. can't spell today. Diamonds.
Your parens are a bit off, I think. There.
Yeah, this is using parinfer. So if I'm just going to cut it and put it back where it goes. There we go. And then let's see, spade. Hello. Meant to copy that guy there.
You haven't got any clubs up there.
Okay, I'll go copy a club from the page itself. I probably should have put this little part into a separate function.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, let me move
To do some homework for next time.
How did we get so many people running this problem? You know who I bet knows how to play poker?
Okay.
I bet Eric knows how to play poker.
Yeah.
I'm really good at it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to test at least what we have so far. I'm going to take one of the things. I'm going to take 3 of hearts and try that.
Oh, ouch.
Okay, so what do we have wrong? Let's see.
I think it's because last S is trying to be a function.
Parinfer is not.
Let's see.
I think if last S is producing, like, let's say, a heart, then it's trying to make that as a function.
Yeah, I think that we need to make that an anonymous function there.
But I think if it's just a string, isn't it? So.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You can't use the...
You can use
I
a
should
get.
reverse those two.
Yeah.
Sorry. Let me just define a function for that thing then.
All right. We have a commenter who says, "Did I just walk in on an interview?" This is we torture ourselves and you all by flailing on a Clojure problem.
We try to please.
Try to please, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we haven't got cats, so we've got failure. You know, this is the
apropos
two possible memes of YouTube. You know.
Yeah, the apropos format is we chat and then we fail.
Yeah. We pretend we know what we're talking about the first half of the show, then we prove we're idiots in the second half of the show.
That's the pattern.
Yeah. Get used to it. Please subscribe, ding the bell.
Okay.
That's my impression of Eric.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on time, so let's get that in there. You know?
We can't have time pressure as well.
Oh my God, yeah. No. True interview.
All right. I'll just inline that.
I mean, the time pressure is we've got to finish this before we all go to Vegas and try it out.
Oh, so we only have like 2 minutes left. So we'll get half the card. String. Okay, let's try this. If it doesn't work, we don't have any time left to fix it. And you get a card.
You want string to, you've got a typo there.
Oh, well, that would cause it to fail. All right, let's do 3 of diamonds. See if we can at least get that.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I unfortunately have to leave now.
And I've got to stand up in the conference room I'm in.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well,
Do like and subscribe to interviews on Clojure.
give us thumbs up
subscribe.
to the flailing that you just saw. Yeah.
All right. See y'all in
later
2
on.
weeks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
See you.